Hello, and in this IELTS Part 2 speaking video, I'm going to look at the topic, describe an interesting conversation you had with someone. You should say who it was with, when it was, what it was about, and explain why you found it interesting. I was struggling to think of a situation to talk about because every conversation I thought of would probably sound boring to another person. But I've decided to talk about a chat I had with a friend of mine who went to the UK to study, and he told me about some of the things that he experienced when he was there. I can't remember exactly when we had this conversation, but it was when he came back for a holiday after his first year of study. We met up for a bite to eat and a catch-up. We've been friends since primary school, and it was great to see him and hang out. The UK is on my bucket list of places to visit, so I was eager to know what it is like. The first thing he said was that the British are so polite. If they bump into you, they apologise. But also, if you bump into them, they apologise as well. If they walk into a door, they'll say sorry to the door. People in my country are nowhere near as polite as this. Another thing he mentioned was that they are obsessed with tea. If you are feeling down, they'll offer you a cup of tea. If you are celebrating something, they'll offer you a cup of tea. As soon as he walked into a British person's house, the first thing they said was, "I'll put the kettle on." It is considered rude to refuse. Tea drinking is such a big part of their culture. The reason why I found this conversation fascinating is because I love finding out about other nationalities and the things that they do that are different. There were loads of other things that he told me about living in the UK, and as a result of our chat, I'm keener than ever to go. Hopefully, in the near future, I'll get the chance. So let's take a look at some of the language here. I was struggling to think of a situation to talk about because I use this in a lot of Part 2 answers, so you can get used to it and try to use it. People often ask me why I don't use the present tense here. It's because at the start of the 1 minute preparation time you were struggling, but then you think of something. So you can't be still struggling when you start speaking. Maybe you are. If you can't think of an answer, you can use I am struggling to think. But I'm saying right at the start of the 1 minute I was struggling, but I've decided to talk about. And the reason I've included this, it's not being negative, like some people think I'm just being negative all the time. It's using complex language and grammar. So we've got past continuous followed by present perfect. And these two tenses are ones that candidates often struggle to use, and the candidates that get the higher band scores are the candidates that use past continuous, present perfect, these more difficult tenses. I can't remember exactly when, so instead of just saying I don't know, I can't remember exactly. I can't remember precisely. A bite to eat, very useful for lots of topics, or Part 1, Part 2. A bite to eat is like a small meal. It's more than a snack. It's when you just go out and you maybe have a sandwich or a bowl of ramen, a kind of a small meal, not a 3-course meal with a starter, main course and pudding. A small meal, a bite to eat. A catch-up, very useful, very informal, but fantastic for IELTS speaking. The verb is to catch up, and the noun is a catch-up, and it means when you're with somebody you haven't seen for a few weeks or months, and you talk about what you have been doing. We've been friends, again, the present perfect. To hang out is another informal verb, and it just means to spend time together. Bucket list. I've used this in quite a few videos because it's complex, it is formal, it's not informal, and it's a great little phrase for talking about things that you would like to do in your lifetime before you die. So swimming with dolphins, going to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, going to Disney World, etc. I was eager to know. This means I was keen to know. And it's just another way of saying it. Keen, eager. To bump into. This is when somebody walks into you and knocks you. They apologise. They say sorry. Nowhere near as polite as this. So instead of just saying as polite as this, I'm saying they're not as polite as this, but even stronger than not, nowhere near. So my daughter often says about her brother, he is nowhere near as good at gaming as I am. So it's when you want to make it stronger than not. Nowhere near as, adjective as. A useful phrase here for adding some further information. Another thing he mentioned was, they are obsessed with. To be obsessed with, very good for writing and speaking. Youngsters today are obsessed with online gaming, social media, etc. They love it. If you are feeling down, it's not as strong as depressed, but you're a bit sad, you're low, so we use low or down. If you are celebrating, IELTS examiners love continuous tenses, so try to use them. I'll put the kettle on. The kettle is what we use in the UK to boil water. It makes the water hot, and so we say I'll put the kettle on, and that means I'll make a cup of tea. It is considered, we've got some passive here, rude to refuse. To refuse something means to say no. The reasons why I found it conversation fascinating, interesting. I'm keener than ever to go, or you can say I'm keener to go than ever, and it means I want to do this more than I did before. Hopefully in the near future, very useful for writing as well, in the near future, in the distant future, so soon. I'll get the chance, the opportunity, the possibility, the chance. So let's take a look now at a part 3 question connected with this topic. So they may ask you, what are the differences between men and women's conversations? Now, I hate these questions, and I can't believe IELTS are still asking them, because they're quite sexist questions, really, if you think about it. That if you say, oh, men talk about this and women talk about this, I don't think you can separate men and women so easily. So if you get asked a question about the differences between men and women, there are some useful phrases that you can use, so that is why I picked this question to focus on in this video. Some might say that males talk about sport and females about food and fashion. Personally, I know many men who chat about food and the latest fashions, and likewise many women who are into football. It is often said that women gossip and men don't. However, this is not the case. So, personally, I feel it's wrong to stereotype. So, some might say, instead of saying some people, you can just say some. To chat about, to talk about, likewise, similarly, women who are into, who like football. It is often said, these passive phrases, it is often suggested, it is frequently proposed. They're very useful. Make sure you know some of them. They're very useful for IELTS writing. Women gossip. To gossip is to talk about other people. So if I heard that somebody is getting a divorce, for example, and then I tell my friend what I've heard, this is called to gossip. And there is this idea that women gossip and men don't. I've worked with a lot of men, and men gossip as much as women. So I don't like this. And so I'm saying, however, this is not the case. The case means this is not the situation. And personally, I feel it's wrong to stereotype. To stereotype is a very useful verb, and it means to have this idea about something or someone. So a stereotype is to say that all Asians love spicy food. I know a lot of Asians that don't like spicy food, so it's wrong to stereotype. The stereotype is also a noun. So, for example, in many societies, there is the stereotype of the woman as the carer and the man as the breadwinner. So this stereotype, this idea that people believe that women are carers, they look after the children, and the man is the breadwinner. The breadwinner means he goes out and earns money. So again, another little complex word there that you can use both in writing and speaking. And so a lot of these questions, what are the differences between men and women's, blah, 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 are asking you really to put men in one box and women in another box. And like I said, nowadays, I don't think you can separate men and women so easily. Men and women like similar things. Like I said, women like sport. I love sport. I love football. And my husband likes talking about food. So I don't think you can say men like this and all women like this. So remember to stereotype, astereotype. It is often said that, however, this is not the case because these are some very useful phrases for answering this type of question. I hope you found this video useful, and thanks for watching.